Good evening, I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm Meg Gatto. Two top City Hall staffers stepped down from their respective roles with the city of New Orleans.
This comes as Mayor LaToya Cantrell and NOPD Officer Gregory Vappie both hire criminal defense lawyers as part of an ongoing federal investigation. And the mayor fires shots at the city council as they vie to fire her communications director. David Jones is unpacking it all.
Lee and Meg, one political analyst says from the federal investigation into the mayor to the shots back and forth between her and city council, these issues and more are a distraction from the work the people of New Orleans want to see being done.
Every couple of days over the past few months, we've had another crisis come about in City Hall.
In Dillard University political analyst Robert Collins' words, it's like a crisis du jour of the day.
What we see in the city right now is just a great deal of instability.
On Wednesday, a Lee Zurich report showed Mayor LaToya Cantrell and Officer Gregory Vappie have both brought on well-known criminal defense attorneys. Eddie Castang is being retained by Cantrell.
Well, Eddie's a very good lawyer, but I think what you need to take from this is Eddie doesn't do real estate law. He's a criminal lawyer. I think the mayor may see that she has some criminal liability going forward, and that's why she retained somebody like Eddie Castang.
Sources confirmed to Fox 8 federal investigators have questioned witnesses and subpoenaed records. The sources say several city vendors have been questioned whether they provided Cantrell with any gifts or money. The FBI has also subpoenaed records from these vendors. Cantrell has not been accused of any criminal wrongdoing, and our sources did not say whether these interviews and records provided any proof of a criminal offense. Sources tell us federal investigators continue to look into NOPD Officer Gregory Vappie, a member of Cantrell's executive protection team, who spent on and off-duty hours inside of the city-owned Upper Pontalba apartment with the mayor and frequently traveled with her on city business. Sources say Vappie has retained former U.S. Attorney Harry Rosenberg. Our stories on Vappie raised questions about the hours he was putting on his timesheet.
When public officials hire high-quality criminal defense attorneys of that nature, it means that they have been notified that they may have some criminal liability on some issues.
Colin says another crisis. Two top staffers head for the exit. Former NOPD Deputy Superintendent Arlinda Westbrook, the former head of NOPD's Public Integrity Bureau, who was reassigned to Chief Administrative Officer Gilbert Montano's office to, in the mayor's words, focus on the consent decree. The city confirmed Westbrook left her role on Monday, but would not say why. And Sarah Porteous, acting director of the city's Department of Public Works, has submitted her resignation, with her last day September 27th. The city confirms no replacement has been chosen.
You have department heads of major city agencies that are leaving. You have the mayor and the city council seemingly constantly at political war with each other. You have accusations flying back and forth.
What Collins is referring to there is the mayor's response to city council's vote on Tuesday to begin the process of terminating her communications director, Gregory Joseph.
See how hard this is? I've had it up to here. And I've taken it personally. But when you really begin to attack the men and women that not only I depend on, but again, that we all depend on, and who make the sacrifices and to show up. And this is how we treat our people. This is not New Orleans.
The council voted to charge Joseph with incompetence, neglect of duty, and gross misconduct. It all stems from mailers sent out at the height of the recall campaign against Cantrell that cost $50,000 in taxpayer dollars, and which the council alleges were political in nature.
If mayor would choose to not remove Mr. Joseph after the council under the charter voted to do so, that there would likely be litigation that would arise from that and she would lose.
These are not just political conflicts and professional conflicts. These are personal conflicts. So this is unprecedented.
Collins says these issues didn't arise out of nowhere. In fact, he says they've been boiling for some time. He points to a voter-approved charter revision last year, which put the power in the hands of council to vote yes or no on the appointment of department heads.
That would not have happened under any previous administration. They felt that they had to rein in the powers of this mayor, of this specific mayor. What you see here is the balance of power shifting, and structurally, the mayor's office is becoming weaker, the city council is becoming stronger.
And Collins adds the changes made in the past year, from the charter revision to removing the city-owned Upper Pentalba apartment from the mayor's usage, will affect future administrations.
The evidence is that this mayor's ego has gotten in the way of some of her personnel decisions, some of her policy decisions, and I think that's going to come back and bite her.
As for Cantrell and Vappie's lawyers, Fox 8 reached out to both Castang and Rosenberg, but neither would comment. Meg?